A wild crow lands on a 7-year-old girl's windowsill in Seattle and drops a small, polished piece of blue glass on the ledge. Next to it, a bent earring, a bone-white bead, a screw. Gabby Mann started feeding the crows in her yard when she was 4, and by age 8, she had a shoebox full of gifts they had brought her, sorted, cataloged, each one photographed. The crows had decided, collectively, that this specific human was worth paying. Nobody asked them to. And that story, strange as it sounds, is the polite version of what's happening. Across every continent, wild animals, undomesticated, genetically identical to their ancestors, are approaching humans and, in the only language they have, asking us for something. Sometimes it's a gift, usually it's help. Humpback whales tangled in fishing line surface next to boats and hold still while strangers cut them free. Elephants walk miles out of the Kenyan bush with poisoned arrows in their shoulders and kneel at ranger tents. Dolphins present themselves, hooks buried in their mouths, to specific divers they've never met. And the researchers who study this can't fully explain it. Because to seek help from another species, a wild animal has to do something that shouldn't be possible. It has to trust the thing its ancestors evolved to run from. The clearest case is the whales. Every year, humpbacks along the Pacific coast get tangled in crab pot lines, coils of thick rope that cut into their flukes and, if left, kill them slowly over months. When rescue teams arrive, something strange happens. 40 tons of muscle in obvious pain goes still. They let strangers approach with knives. They surface for breath in a rhythm the rescuers can work with. One diver, James Mosquito, described being escorted by a freed humpback for nearly an hour after the cut. The whale circling each rescuer in turn, opening and closing its mouth in a way marine biologists have only ever seen humpbacks do with other humpbacks. He called it thanks. His colleagues rolled their eyes. But here's the problem. Nobody has a better explanation. And these are whales whose species, until a generation ago, had only ever met humans holding harpoons. The most rigorously proven case, though, doesn't involve rescue. It involves a bird that has been recruiting humans as employees for tens of thousands of years. In northern Mozambique, the Yao people hunt wild honey by calling to a small brown bird called the greater honey guide, a species that eats beeswax but can't open a hive on its own. In 2016, evolutionary biologist Claire Spottiswoode published a study in Science showing that when Yao hunters made a specific trilling call, brr-hm, passed down through generations, the birds responded 3 times more often and led hunters to hives 3 times more successfully than when the hunters used random sounds. The birds understood a human vocal signal. Nobody taught them in a lab. This is a wild animal actively soliciting a human partner using a species-specific request. Some biologists think the birds evolved to recognize the sound before Homo sapiens evolved to make it, which is a sentence that should make you sit up. The obvious objection is that these animals are just being pragmatic. A whale can't cut rope, so it tolerates the creature that can. And that's partly true, but it doesn't explain the elephants. At the David Sheldrick Wildlife Trust in Kenya, keepers have documented wild bulls with no history of human contact walking into their compounds with poacher-fired arrows lodged in their skulls, then standing quietly while vets they've never seen before load tranquilizer darts into rifles a few feet from their eyes. Elephants remember. They pass information across generations. Somewhere in their culture is the knowledge that these particular pink primates, in these particular green uniforms, are the ones who make the pain stop. That is not pragmatism. That is a theory of mind. And it means, somewhere out on the savannah tonight, one elephant is telling another elephant where to go when the arrow comes. Here's the part that isn't beautiful. Wild animals only started coming to us for help within the last century, the same century in which we became, by a factor of 10,000, the primary cause of their suffering. The whales come to us because our nets are killing them. The elephants come to us because our poachers are killing them. The honey guides came because we cleared the forest they can't hunt in alone. Every one of these encounters, no matter how tender it looks on camera, is a wild animal turning to the exact species that broke its world and asking for a piece of the wreckage back. We didn't earn their trust. We used up every other option they had. The help seeker is a survivor of the help refuser, and most of the ones who tried us first didn't survive to teach the lesson. And yet, something did shift. In 2017, a research team led by Robert Pittman published a review of more than 100 documented cases of humpback whales physically intervening to protect other animals, seals, sea lions, even other species of whale, from orca attacks. The humpbacks got nothing out of it. They just showed up and interposed their bodies between the killer whales and whatever small, soft thing was about to die. Pittman couldn't rule out altruism. He also couldn't prove it. But the data suggests some wild animals may have a generalized instinct to recognize suffering across the species line, to see a stranger drowning, and decide, without benefit, to help. Which raises a question researchers are still a little afraid to ask out loud. If they can extend that instinct to us, is it possible we're being read the same way? Not as a threat, not as prey, as one more animal that occasionally, unexpectedly helps. Somewhere tonight, a humpback is sleeping in the dark of the Pacific with a slow heartbeat and, maybe, a memory of a diver's face. Somewhere in Mozambique, a small brown bird is already listening for a call it has been waiting all day to hear. And somewhere in Seattle, a girl is asleep with a shoebox full of glass and bone under her bed, gifts from animals who decided she was worth the flight. We spent 100,000 years being the reason wild animals ran, and in the last narrow slice of that time, some of them stopped running, turned around, and decided to try us anyway. That's not forgiveness. It's something braver. It's the animal kingdom holding out a hand and hoping this time we take it gently.